We're now covering lessons 3 and 4. Lessons 3 covers Introduction to the Psalms. By this time, you should have your notes with you and the charts on the Psalms. You should have chosen also the text that you will study throughout the course of this class. So, Introduction to the Psalms, objectives, discuss the benefits and caution to the form criticism of the Psalms, list the major types of the Psalms. What are some things that we need to know about the Psalms? The Psalms of the Old Testament. The book of Psalms is a collection of songs, prayers, and meditations of God's people. They are a record of the responses to God's revelation or dealings. In time, they were used for public and private worship. The Tanakh, or the Hebrew Bible, is divided into three main groups, namely Torah, prophets, writings. So, Torah, Nevi'im, Ketuvim. Psalms belong to the writings. The book of Psalms is also divided into 5 books. Book 1, Psalms associated with David. Book 2, the sons of Korah. Book 3, community laments. Book 4, Yahweh's kingship. Book 5, communal hymns and thanksgiving. Who are the major players in the study of the Psalms? Let's look at the brief history in the study of the Psalms. We have a pre-Gunkel period, that's 1900 to 1930. The 19th century was entrenched in the evolutionary view of life, including culture, literature, and religion. Individual psalms were dated depending on the assumed development in its theological point of view. So there is development, evolutionary. Many of the psalms were dated to the exilic or post-exilic periods, even though these were associated with David. Letter B is the Hermann Gunkel period, that's 1862 to 1932. He is known as the father of form criticism. His major contribution is the categorization of the psalms according to their types or genre and setting in life, Sitzim Leben. They are the hymns, communal lament, royal psalms, individual lament, and individual songs of thanksgiving. Letter C, the post-Gunkel period. This time, most scholars accepted Gunkel's proposals. Sigmund Moenkel, 1884 to 1966, suggested that there was an annual New Year festival in Jerusalem where Yahweh's enthronement was celebrated. Sometimes the king reenacts the event, but this is kaput because it does not have direct evidence from OT. Another scholar is Hooke in the Myth and Ritual School. He proposed that the enthronement psalms describe Yahweh's dying and rising. This time, we will consider the benefits and cautions to form criticism. We will deal with this in detail in Lesson 9, but for now, let's look at the benefits. 2 benefits of form criticism are that the main types follow a consistent pattern. This allows the exegete to easily determine the structure and the theme of the psalm. This is helpful, but there are downsides as well. Some downside and cautions to form criticism include the following. There is a disagreement among scholars in classifying the psalms. Be warned against being too rigid and dogmatic on psalm types. If a psalm you are studying follows a structure from the categories suggested by the scholars, use it. But if there are some discrepancies, submit to the structure displayed by the psalm. Many of the scholars who adhere to form criticism of the Psalms do not hold to the historicity and inerrancy of the scriptures. Therefore, be critical about their presuppositions, especially with regards to the author, the date, and origin of the Psalms. For instance, most of the Psalms in the first book, 1 to 41, of the Psalms are attributed to David. But Gerstenberger would date this to the exilic period. What are the types of the psalms that we should be aware of? Let's look at psalm types and their settings in life. Traditionally, it is believed that most of the psalms were composed by David. To know the setting of the psalm then, simply locate the event in David's life that gave rise to the psalm. For instance, David composed Psalm 51 a year after David committed adultery with Bathsheba. Gunkel's categories were augmented through time, but they continue to influence the discussions on the Psalms to this day. For instance, Anderson categorized the main types of Psalms according to the following: the praises of God, laments, royal psalms, minor types, and others. So let's look at the praises of God. We have two. The hymns or descriptive praise. This focus on the existence of God and His general acts. So they praise God in general. These are psalms celebrating Yahweh's kingship and also the songs of Zion or indirect praises of God. We also have the declarative praise. This focuses on the specific acts of God. It includes individual praise or songs of thanksgiving, national praise or songs of thanksgiving. Then letter B, laments. We have made a lot of laments as well when COVID started. And this refers to the cry of the people to God for help during individual and national crisis. So examples of individual laments are Psalms 3 to 7, 9 to 10, and others. Communal laments, so we covered Psalm 44 at one time. Then we have 60, 74, and others. And Psalms of confidence, it includes 4, 11, 16, 27, and 62. We also have what we call the royal psalms. These were composed for events associated to the king's life. Examples is Psalm 2, 18, 20, 21, 45, 72, and others. We also have minor types, the entrance liturgies like Psalm 24, which covers who can enter or go into the presence of God. So earlier I mentioned about the charts on the major types. So we have here, and you should have that in your notes, declarative praise of God and the structure, descriptive praise of God, and then the lament of the individual, and then lament of the people. So try to review that. We also have psalm titles. So we have psalms associated to David, the sons of Korah, Asaph, Solomon, Herman the Ezrahite, Ethan the Ezrahite, and Moses, that's Psalm 90, and then Jeduthun. And finally, we have terms indicating the type of psalm, like a psalm, 57 times, Shegayon, Psalm 7, Miktam, Psalm 16, 56 to 60, prayer, Psalm 65, 17, 86, 90, 102, and 142. Song, Psalm 69, Maskil, Song of Praise, Psalm 65, Psalm 119, and then a love song, Psalm 45, Song of Ascents, Psalm 20. Now, for your exercises, I want you to identify the type of psalm assigned to you. Is it a lament? Is it a declarative psalm? What is it?